Hello everybody, thanks for watching. Welcome back to another fun and content-filled video. This will be the last video I do in the series on the topic of corruption in the New Testament. There may be more videos on this topic, but as far as this series, I'll go ahead and close it out by sharing with you some observations that I had in reviewing comments and interacting with Muslims who have responded to this video series. And not only Muslims who have responded to this video series, but also the way that Muslims talk about text criticism of the New Testament elsewhere, online, for example, YouTube videos on other channels, or Islamic websites. There's something that these all have in common. Something between them seems to share a common thread, and I can't quite figure out what it is. But it's as if they're all drawn from the same source. And I can't remember the name, but there's a famous New Testament text critic. His name will come to me soon. The camera's rolling. That's probably why I forgot it. But I can't remember his name, but it'll come to me. Let's hop online here, and I'll show you a particular website that I'm talking about that shows what's going on with the comments and how there doesn't seem to be a lot of diversity of opinion. So this is an article, and this is a really bad write-up on John 3:16. But anyway, we scroll down, and this is the page where there are some sources that are finally cited. You can see the numbers here. And I'm going to go ahead and pull up my magnifier so everybody can see a little better. All right, let's drag this up here. Okay, so let's drop down. Where you see these citations, let's go see who this article is citing. We have an interpreter's dictionary. Fair enough. And then we have, oh yeah, Bart Ehrman. Yeah, Bart Ehrman. Bart Ehrman. Bart Ehrman. Bart Ehrman. Bruce Metzger. Okay, so somebody not Bart Ehrman, but they only made it to the introduction, page 1. You don't want to get too far into someone's work who doesn't agree with your perspective, because then you might find some objection that you can't deal with. So Let's not have that. Let's not go past the introduction. Bart Ehrman. Oh, okay. A book that was co-authored with Bart Ehrman. Bart Ehrman. Bart Ehrman. Bart Ehrman. Bart Ehrman. Bart Ehrman. Bruce Metzger again. Oh, introduction. Introduction. Co-authored by Bart Ehrman. Bart Ehrman. Bart Ehrman. Bart Ehrman. Bart Ehrman. Bart Ehrman. See also Bart Ehrman. Yes, Bart Ehrman. How could I forget that name? Professor Metzger was Bart Ehrman's teacher, of course, and Professor Metzger died in 2007, which leaves Bart Ehrman as the only living New Testament text critic that Muslims cite about 99% of the time. So why is this? I was asking myself this question, and when I realized the answer, the fog was lifted from my eyes, and I was able to see clearly why Muslims do this. Ironically, the answer to why Muslims only quote Bart Ehrman came to me in a textual variant. I present to you the Nestle Aland. This is the 28th edition. Now, this is frequently referred to as the NA, okay, for short, NA 28. And it, of course, is the Greek New Testament with the associated apparatus. Now, there are two you might consider main Greek New Testaments. You have the NA and you have the UBS, right? They're both the same Greek text, but the text critical apparatus at the bottom, what's contained at the bottom right here, is different. So the textual variant I discovered was that the NA 28, it's not the NA. It's not the NA. It's the AN. And what are the last two letters of Dr. Ehrman's name? AN. Do you think that's a coincidence? It's not. Dr. Ehrman is actually behind the NA 28. He's the only text critic in existence. Who else could publish this? You say, okay, fine. You got me there. NA is a textual variant. It's really the AN. What about the 28? Well, how is that related to Bart Ehrman? Well, I ask you, was not Dr. Ehrman 28 years old at some point in his life? Yes, he was. And so I present to you not the NA-28, but the AN-28, the Bart Ehrman 28. He's been behind it the whole time. You say, okay, fine, but there's still the UBS. That's not Bart Ehrman, is it? Yes, it is. What is the middle letter in the UBS 5? The other Greek New Testament. Same Greek text, but different apparatus. That's not Bart Ehrman? Yeah. The middle letter is a B, as you figured out by now, of course. What is the first letter of Bart Ehrman's name? It's a B. Yes. The UBS 5 is actually the United Bart Society 5. That's the actual name of the UBS 5. Bart Ehrman's behind that as well. He's behind all of it. And that's why Muslims only cite him. You say, okay, fine. NA-28, UBS, what about the 5? What about the 5? UBS 5. What year was Dr. Ehrman born? 1955. UBS 5, 1955. Do you think that's a coincidence? It's not. We have the Bart Ehrman 28 and the United Bart Society 5. Bart Ehrman's behind all of it. You say, okay, fine. What about that text criticism center that guy Kurt Ahlen started in Germany? No. That was Bart Ehrman too. Bart Ehrman founded the premier institute for New Testament text criticism. That was Ehrman. You say, okay, wait. That was founded in 1959. Bart Ehrman was born in 1955. He was 4 years old. What does that mean? That can't be right. Yeah, it can. And I'll tell you how. What that clearly means is that Bart Ehrman was doing New Testament text criticism when he was 4 years old. Bart Ehrman's behind everything. That's why he's all Muslims. That's why Muslims refer to him exclusively. There's nobody else. And as I began realizing this is why Muslims cite Bart Ehrman. He's been behind all of it from the start. As this realization set in, I realized that this guy is busy. He is busy. Millions of pages of handwritten Greek New Testament manuscripts to maintain. He has the text critical apparatus of the NA-28, future editions coming out. He has the UBS 5 text critical apparatus. Again, future editions. This guy is busy. He has his blog. How does he do all of this? But there's more. Some of you may have heard of the coherence-based genealogical method. That's a new method of New Testament text criticism that's been in the works for several years. It's not what it stands for. You've already figured it out, haven't you? It's the coherence-BART genealogical method. That's right. Bart Ehrman, again, is at the forefront. Only place he can be because he's the only New Testament text critic. He has got a lot going on. He's at the forefront of everything. He's behind everything. He is New Testament text criticism, and there is no one else. Now, you may be shocked, because the thing that got me the most about this was how busy this man is. How does he do all of this? He teaches, as far as I know, he still teaches, the blog, the NA-28, the UBS 5, Coherence, BART, genealogical method. He still has time to do YouTube video interviews, believe it or not. He does. And I hope I haven't given this away. I really hope I haven't. But if you were a Muslim and you wanted to interview, I haven't given it away. If you're a Muslim and you want to interview, let's just say, a New Testament text critic for your channel, Muslim by Choice on YouTube, and you want to interview a New Testament text critic, who do you think, I hope I haven't given this away, who do you think you would interview? You don't know, do you? I'll tell you. Bart Ehrman. Let's see what Bart Ehrman has to say.
Right. So the first thing I'll say is that's one of the reasons that I've had trouble with traditional Christianity is because of the changes that scribes have made in the text. But it's not the only thing. Another issue is the internal discrepancies that you find within the New Testament.
So you see what he's talking about here. He's talking about not only the textual variants in the New Testament, but the differences between the accounts. So if you put the parallel accounts together and read them across, they don't match up. Now, Dr. Mike Licona has done a lot of good work on this over the last 8 years, comparing the genre and the date of the Gospels with other similar genres at a similar time, contemporary to the Gospels, to try to figure out how all this works, what kind of styles and what kind of literary methods the gospel writers used. And he's done a great job. And it's pretty well settled, this whole issue of the differences in the parallel accounts. There are some differences that remain, but by and large, the vast majority of them are very, very, an answer is readily available. But what if that's not good enough? What if these differences exist not just in the New Testament? Christians would really be in trouble. And so I decided to compare some other passages. Here's what I came up with. So I just took 3 passages and put them in 3 columns. They're parallel passages. If the 3 columns do not match, then they're in red, and all of the columns are in red because none of the 3 parallel passages match exactly. The highlighted areas are color-coded, and they match respectively. So column 1, yellow, matches column 3, yellow. The orange is common to all 3 columns. So pretty simple layout. So you have God here saying, get thee out from here, for thou art rejected, accursed, my curse shall be on thee till the day of judgment. But then over here, same parallel passage, it is not for thee to be arrogant here, get out, for thou art of the meanest of creatures. Satan's words don't match when he's quoted. Again, God's words don't match. Satan's words don't match. Scrolling down, again, God goes off on this one in the 3rd column, and then just has a few commonalities, mostly when talking about hell. So these are significant differences. And for those of you who are familiar with this text, you know that I'm, of course, reading from the Quran, Surah 38, Surah 7, Surah 15, the famous passages where Satan is told to prostrate. Well, depending on what text you read, Allah either says, what prevents thee from prostrating thyself to one whom I have created with my hands? Art thou haughty? Or art thou one of the high and mighty ones? Or perhaps he said, what prevented thee from prostrating when I commanded thee? O Satan, what is your reason for not being among those who prostrated themselves? Which one of these did Allah say? You have Satan down here, and again, these 3 accounts, you put them together, and there are numerous differences, especially within the quotes attributed to Allah. It's interesting down here in this column that Satan says the exact same thing, with the exception of this phrase, O my Lord. And then the rest is approximately the same. Give me then respite till the day the dead are raised, as a question there. And so Satan is actually quoted most accurately and consistently between these 3 parallel accounts. And this is where it all comes down to hypocrisy. Hypocrisy. Dr. Ehrman's talking about the differences in the manuscripts of the New Testament. Yeah, the claim among Muslims for centuries has been complete, preserved manuscripts, unchanged from the time of Uthman. Yeah, we don't even have the originals. That's the truth. We don't have the original manuscripts of the Quran. We don't even have copies of the originals. We don't even, well, somebody else says it better.
We don't have the originals. We have copies made centuries later. These copies that were made centuries later contain numerous mistakes, thousands of mistakes, tens of thousands of mistakes, hundreds of thousands of mistakes.
And the differences in the gospel accounts, they're in the Quran. as well. Allah does not even quote himself the same way in parallel accounts. If Bart Ehrman wrote a book on the Quran, it would be called Misquoting Allah, because Allah can't even get his words right from one passage to another. How is that possible? What words of Allah are preserved in the eternal tablet? All 3 of them? 4 of them? And other differences can be noted in the same way. When you compare parallel accounts in the Quran, they're different. And the pinnacle of this, again, is that Allah does not even quote himself the same way twice. How ironic. No definition of corruption that a Muslim has yet provided has been consistent. Muslims have had the luxury for years of maintaining a definition of corruption that's very inclusive. The more inclusive your definition is, the worse it makes the Bible look. And so when I ask Muslims now, even after presenting the evidence for the mass corruption in the Quran and the evidence that's coming later on this year or early next year, they don't get it. They don't understand that they have to redefine corruption. Otherwise, they have declared their own Quranic manuscripts corrupt. They don't get it. Because Muslims haven't had to think about this. They've had to approach text criticism, or been able to approach text criticism, from a very inclusive, unspecific, careless way. The exact way that text critical scholars do not approach the issue. And now that it's being applied to the Quran, they have no idea how to cope with it. They don't. They can't be consistent. And then you get a video like this on Muslim by Choice, and all the Muslims are commenting, Subhanallah, Yeah. The differences that Muslims love to talk about in the Gospels, they're in the Quran too. And it's even worse than the Gospel, because the Gospels are accounts that are shaped by the Gospel writers. They're biographies. In the Quran, you have direct quotes from Allah in the same context, the same event, and he can't even get it right twice. It's ironic that the words of Satan, particularly, match the closest. Only the difference between one little phrase in those comparisons on that particular verse that I showed you. For those who want to claim the Quran is written by Satan, well, Satan at least quotes himself consistently. So, the lack of consistency, the hypocrisy that Muslims seem to embrace on this issue has been fully exposed. Whether or not they choose to acknowledge it, well, that's another story. But it's been demonstrated both on websites that you can go to yourself, YouTube videos, that Muslims do not know how to think well, how to think critically about these issues, about their own text, their own manuscripts. So, lots more to come. I've had this channel since January and have 50-something videos, so lots of content. Lots more to come. Thanks for watching, and please do stay tuned. And again, if you're a Muslim, you disagree with what I'm saying, post a comment. Make it good. Make it substantive. Give it some content. And I will certainly do my best to respond. Thanks for watching.